Let me ask you something. When was the last time you allowed yourself to truly dream? Not just a little goal, not just a do list, but a vision so big it makes your heart race and your mind say, is that even possible? Because here's the truth. Most people stopped dreaming big a long time ago. They traded possibility for comfort. They gave up vision for survival. And deep inside, they know they were meant for more. Every day they settle for less. I want you to feel this right now. Your life is not meant to be average. You weren't put on this earth to wake up, work, pay bills, and die. There's a fire inside of you, a dream, calling that's screaming to be awakened. And if you're not chasing it, if you're not stretching toward it, you're living only a fraction of who you could be. This is not just another motivational talk. This is a wake up call. If you'll stay with me, if you'll lean in, if you'll open your mind and heart, you're going to walk out of this with a different perspective on your life. Because when you dream big and you commit to conditioning your mind with those dreams every single morning, you stop living as a prisoner of circumstance and you start living as a creator of destiny. So my challenge to you is simple. Don't just listen. Decide right now that you'll fully engage, that you'll let these words shake you, stir you, and push you to remember the life you were born to live. Stay with me until the end, because this could be the exact moment where everything begins to change for you. When you look at the people who have created extraordinary lives, there's one thing that separates them from everyone else. It's not luck. It's not timing. It's not that they were born into the perfect family or had all the resources lined up for them. It's vision. Vision is the seed that gives birth to everything else. Without it, you're just wandering. With it, you're unstoppable. I don't mean a vague dream like I want to be successful or I want to be happy. That's not vision. That's hope. And hope is weak if it isn't tied to something real. A true vision is vivid, compelling, detailed. It's so clear you can see it, feel it, taste it before it ever exists in the physical world. Most people wake up every morning and go straight into survival mode. They think about what they have to do, the bills they need to pay, the things that are weighing them down. And over time, their mind becomes conditioned to only see problems, not possibilities. That's why people stop dreaming big. They've been disappointed. They've failed before. Someone told them to be realistic. And so they shrink. They settle for what's in front of them instead of creating what's beyond them. But here's the truth. Everything you see in this world that is extraordinary, every business, every invention, every piece of art, every movement that changed the course of history began in someone's imagination. It started as a vision before it became reality. If you want your life to transform, you have to be willing to create a vision that's bigger than your current circumstance. And I know when I say dream big, some people immediately think that's not for me. I'm too old. I've already missed my chance. I don't have the resources. That's the voice of fear disguised as logic. And if you listen to it, you'll build your life around excuses instead of possibilities. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not the ones who had no fear. They're the ones who built a vision so powerful that it pulled them through the fear. Think about this. When your vision is clear enough, the how will always show up. But most people do the opposite. They get stuck in the how. They think, how am I going to make this money? How am I going to start this business? How am I going to change my life? And because they can't see every step, they never even take the first one. But vision doesn't require that you know the whole path. It only requires that you see the destination so vividly that you can't help but move toward it. Imagine for a moment a pilot getting ready to fly a plane. Before that plane ever leaves the ground, they file a flight plan. They know exactly where they're going, even if turbulence comes, even if the wind shifts, even if they have to rear out, they always know the destination. That's what vision does for your life. Without it, you're drifting. With it, you're guided. And every decision, every action, every setback becomes fuel to get you closer to where you've already decided you're going. And let me tell you, vision isn't just about what you want to achieve. It's about who you need to become in the process. A big vision demands growth. It demands that you let go of who you've been and step into who you're meant to be. If your dream doesn't scare you at least a little, if it doesn't stretch you, it's not big enough. Because the whole point of dreaming big isn't just to get things. It's to unlock parts of yourself that you didn't even know were there. I've met people who said, I just don't know what my vision is. And I always tell them, start by asking, what excites me? What lights me up? What would I be doing if money didn't matter? If nobody could laugh at me, if I couldn't fail, would I give my life to? Deep down, every person has an answer. The problem is most people bury it under layers of fear, responsibility, and the opinions of others. But when you strip all that away, you give yourself permission to see what you really want. That's when vision comes alive. And it's not enough to just think about it once. You have to live in that vision every single day. You have to condition your mind until that vision feels more real than your current reality. Because the truth is, your brain doesn't know the difference between something you vividly imagine and something that's actually happening. You rehearse your vision daily, you're wiring your nervous system to believe it's already true. And when you believe something with absolute certainty, you'll find the actions, the resources, and the energy to make it real. Some of you in this room might have a vision that's been burning inside of you for years, but you've been ignoring it. Maybe you thought it was too big. Maybe people laughed at you. Maybe you failed once and decided it wasn't meant for you. Let me tell you something, if that vision is still in your heart, it's because it's still possible. The dream that won't leave you alone, the one that keeps coming back no matter how much you try to silence it, that's not random. That's your calling. And the moment you finally decide to honor it, everything in your life begins to change. The world doesn't need more people living small. The world needs you to live big, to dream bigger than your fears, bigger than your failures, bigger than the limitations people have tried to put on you. Because when you do, you don't just change your own life. You give others permission to dream bigger for theirs. Courage to pursue your vision becomes the spark that ignites someone else's. And that ripple effect is how movements are born, how families are transformed, how generations are changed. So if you're listening right now, let this be another moment that feels good for a second and then fades away. Decide right now that you will no longer live without vision. Decide that you will no longer shrink your dreams to fit your reality, that you will expand your reality to match your dreams. Because the future belongs to those who dare to see it before anyone else does. And when you lock into a vision so powerful that it pulls you out of bed with passion, it becomes so clear that you can't help but chase it. That's when life stops happening to you and starts happening for you. If vision is the spark that ignites your future, then limiting beliefs are the chains that keep you tied to the past. You can dream as big as you want, but if deep inside you don't believe you're worthy, if you don't believe you're capable, or if you don't believe it's possible, your vision never leaves your imagination. Stops people is rarely the world around them. It's the prison inside their mind. And that prison is built brick by brick with beliefs they've accepted as truth. Think about it. From the time you were a child, you've been absorbing the voices around you. Maybe it was your parents, your teachers, your friends, or society itself. At some point, someone told you what you could or couldn't do. And without even realizing it, you took that limitation and made it your identity. You failed at something once, and suddenly you decided, I'm not good enough. You were rejected, and you decided, I'm not lovable. You struggled, and you decided, life is just too hard for me. And here's the dangerous part. You didn't just think it once. You repeated it to yourself so many times that now it feels like reality. But it's not reality, it's a story. And stories can be rewritten. Most people never question their beliefs. They just assume what they think about themselves is the truth. But beliefs are nothing more than repeated thoughts reinforced with emotion. If you tell yourself something enough times and you feel it deeply enough, your brain wires itself to accept it as fact. That means if you've been telling yourself, never be successful, or I'll never lose this weight, or I'll never find love, you're literally conditioning yourself to stay stuck. You don't need anyone else to hold you back. You're doing it to yourself. Here's the good news. If beliefs can be created, they can also be destroyed. If they can be built, they can be rebuilt. And the moment you decide to challenge a belief that has limited you, the moment you stand up and say, this story no longer serves me, you begin to break the chains. Now let's be real. Breaking limiting beliefs isn't always easy because they feel so true. You've been living with them for years, sometimes decades. They've shaped your decisions, actions, even the people you surround yourself with. So the mind fights back when you try to let them go. It whispers, what if you fail again? What if you're not enough? What if people laugh at you? And if you listen, you'll stay where you are. The only way to prove a limiting belief wrong is to take action in spite of it. Think about a time in your life when you thought you couldn't do something, but you pushed through and did it anyway. Maybe you thought you'd never make it through school. You graduated. Maybe you thought you couldn't get in shape, but you stuck with it and changed your body. Maybe you thought you'd never survive that heartbreak, but here you are. Every one of those moments is proof that your limiting beliefs were lies. The more you stack up those victories, the more you weaken the grip of the lies that have held you back. One of the most powerful things you can do is to start questioning your beliefs instead of blindly accepting them. The next time you catch yourself saying, I can't, or I'm not, stop and ask, whose voice is this? Where did I learn this? What evidence do I actually have that this is true? And 9 times out of 10, you'll realize it's not truth. It's a belief you borrowed from someone else who was limited themselves. And you've been carrying their limitation as if it were your identity. But it doesn't have to be. Once you recognize that a belief is limiting you, replace it with something empowering. Don't just say, I'm not enough. Instead, tell yourself, I am more than enough. And every day I'm becoming stronger, wiser, capable. Don't just say, I can't do this. Instead, declare, I don't know how yet, but I'm committed to figuring it out. At first, your mind might resist because it feels unfamiliar. The same way you conditioned yourself into limitation, you can condition yourself into empowerment. It's repetition, it's emotion, it's consistency. And let me tell you, the people who break through in life are not the ones who never had limiting beliefs. Every single human being has them. The difference is the people who transform are the ones who refuse to let those beliefs define them. They use them as fuel. They say, because I was told I couldn't, I will. Because I was told I wasn't enough, I'll prove to myself that I am. They turn the very thing that was meant to cage them into the fire that frees them. You and I both know people who have had impossible odds stacked against them, who came from backgrounds where no one would have bet on them, but they refused to buy into the belief that their past determined their future. They created new beliefs. Those beliefs became the foundation for a new destiny, and you have the same power. Right now, you can decide that the old story is over. Right now, you can decide that the beliefs that held you back don't get to control what's next. You have to decide. No one can do it for you. The people around you can encourage you, they can support you, but only you can stand up and say, enough. I'm not going to let these invisible chains dictate my life anymore. I'm not going to shrink myself because of someone else's opinion or a failure from my past. I am more than that, and I choose to believe in the possibility of what I can create. Because here's the truth. Your beliefs are the steering wheel of your life. Whatever you believe, you'll move toward. If you believe you're limited, you'll act in limited ways and you'll create limited results. If you believe you're powerful, resourceful, and capable, act with courage and your life will reflect it. It's not magic. It's alignment. You don't get what you want. You get what you believe you deserve. So if you want your vision to come alive, if you want to transform your life, you must be ruthless about destroying the beliefs that no longer serve you. You must be relentless about planting new ones that empower you. And you must live every day as if those new beliefs are already true. Because the moment you do, your world begins to shift in ways you never imagined. The biggest chains you'll ever break are the ones you can't see. If you look closely at the patterns of the most successful, fulfilled, and driven people in the world, there's one thing they all share in common. They don't leave the state of their mind to chance. They don't wake up and just hope they'll feel motivated, or hope they'll feel confident, or hope that somehow the day will go well. They condition their minds every single day the way an athlete conditions their body, because they know that life will throw distractions, setbacks, and negativity at them. And if they're not mentally primed, they'll be pulled off course. When you train your mind daily, you create an unshakable foundation that keeps you aligned with your vision no matter what. Most people wake up and the first thing they do is grab their phone. They scroll through emails, social media, the news. And before they even take their first step out of bed, their mind is already filled with everyone else's agenda, negativity, and noise. And then they wonder why they feel overwhelmed, anxious, or defeated before the day has even started. You can't fill your mind with garbage and expect to produce greatness. You can't start your day with everyone else's problems and expect to stay focused on your own purpose. That's why conditioning is everything. Conditioning is about deciding what you feed your mind every day. Because just like your body becomes what you eat, your mind becomes what you consume. If you constantly fill your mind with fear, doubt, and limitation, be surprised when your life reflects those things. But if you fill it with vision, with empowering thoughts, with messages that remind you of your strength and your potential, you start to operate from a completely different level of certainty. Think about it this way. If you only went to the gym once a month, would you expect to be in shape? Of course not. Yet most people think listening to one motivational speech once in a while or reading a book once a year is enough to rewire decades of negative conditioning. It doesn't work that way. Transformation isn't an event. It's a habit. You don't wait until you feel strong to train your body. You train your body to become strong. In the same way, you don't wait until you feel motivated to feed your mind. You feed your mind so that motivation becomes your natural state. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It's about building rituals that align your thoughts with your vision every single morning. Maybe it's watching something that inspires you. Maybe it's listening to something that elevates you. Maybe it's affirmations, prayer, visualization, gratitude, whatever it is. You're deliberately priming your brain for the day ahead. And when you do this consistently, you stop being reactive to life and you start becoming proactive. You set the tone instead of letting the world set it for you. Let me ask you, if you spend 10 minutes every morning reminding yourself of your vision, conditioning your mind with the belief that you are capable, rehearsing the emotions of gratitude, courage, and strength, how different would your day feel? Much more energy would you bring? How many fewer excuses would you make? Because the truth is, the way you start your morning determines how you live your day. And how you live your days determines your destiny. Here's the thing, your brain is like a muscle. If you don't train it, it becomes weak. If you train it with negativity, it becomes conditioned to expect the worst. But if you train it with empowerment, it becomes conditioned to look for opportunities instead of obstacles, solutions instead of problems, growth instead of fear. And the beauty is, your brain doesn't care what you feed it. It will simply reflect what you give it. So why not give it the thoughts, the energy, and the beliefs that move you closer to your dreams? Some of you might be thinking, but I've tried that before. It didn't work. The reason it didn't work is because you treated it like a one-time thing instead of a lifestyle. Imagine planting a seed, watering it once, and then saying, it didn't grow. Of course, it didn't grow. You didn't nurture it. Daily conditioning is watering the seed of your vision until it takes root so deeply that nothing can pull it out. Here's what's powerful. Once you condition your mind daily, you start to create momentum. And momentum is everything. When you stack day after day of feeding your mind, of aligning your focus, of priming your emotions, you build a rhythm that carries you forward. Suddenly what used to feel impossible becomes natural. The things that once overwhelmed you now seem easy, and the challenges that used to stop you are nothing more than stepping stones. Because you're no longer operating at the mercy of your circumstances. You're operating from a state you've created within yourself. But conditioning doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you act. You're conditioned to believe in your vision. You make decisions differently. You don't hesitate as much. You don't doubt yourself the same way. You see opportunities where others see dead ends. You take risks that others are too afraid to take. Because you act differently, you get different results. And those results reinforce your belief, which strengthens your conditioning even more. It becomes a self-fulfilling cycle, but one that's working in your favor instead of against you. This is why the most powerful people in the world are fanatical about their rituals. They don't skip them. They don't make excuses. They know that if they don't condition their mind, the world will do it for them. It isn't designed to empower you. It's designed to distract you, to sell you, to keep you comfortable. Conditioning is how you take back control. It's how you say, I decide what my mind focuses on. I decide how I show up today. I decide who I'm becoming. And I want you to hear this. If you don't condition your mind, you will unconsciously condition yourself to stay the same, because your mind is always being trained whether you realize it or not. Every thought you repeat, every story you tell yourself, every piece of content you consume is shaping your beliefs. The question is, are you shaping them intentionally, or are you letting them be shaped by default? Because there's no neutral, either conditioning yourself to rise or conditioning yourself to stay stuck. So if you truly want to transform your life, don't leave your mindset to chance. Make it a non-negotiable. Every morning before the world gets to you, get to yourself. Feed your mind with strength. Condition it with gratitude. Prime it with vision. Wire it with belief. Do it until it feels natural. Do it until it becomes automatic. Do it until it's who you are. Because when you live from that state every single day, life cannot stay the same. The mind left untrained is a dangerous place, but the mind conditioned daily is unstoppable. You can have the clearest vision in the world, and you can break through the limiting beliefs that held you back. You can condition your mind every single day with empowering thoughts and unstoppable energy, but if you don't take action, nothing changes. Nothing. Vision without action is just a dream. Belief without action is just potential. Energy without action is wasted fuel. What transforms your life is not what you know, not what you think about, not what you plan. It's what you do consistently with absolute commitment, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's uncertain, even when you don't feel ready. The truth is, most people already know what they need to do. They know they need to start that business, apply for that opportunity, make that call, have that conversation, change that habit. But they wait. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait until they feel confident. They wait until they have all the answers lined up. And you know what happens? They wait their life away because there is no perfect moment. There is no magical day when fear disappears. Everything is lined up when you feel completely ready. If you're waiting for that, you'll be waiting forever. Action is what creates confidence. Action is what creates clarity. And action is what creates momentum. Massive action means you stop dipping your toes in the water and you dive in. It means you stop playing small and you commit fully. It means you stop making excuses and you start making progress. And let's be real, it's not about taking any action. It's about taking aligned action. Aligned action is action that moves you closer to your vision, because busy doesn't equal productive. There are people who work all day, hustle all day, but they're running in circles because their actions aren't tied to where they really want to go. You don't need to do everything. You need to do the right things. The actions that build momentum, the actions that compound over time, the actions that stretch you but move you closer to what you said you wanted. And the funny thing is, the hardest part is usually just starting. You build it up in your head. You tell yourself 1,000 reasons why it'll be hard, why it might not work. You're not ready. And then when you finally just do it, you realize it wasn't nearly as bad as you imagined. How many times in your life have you avoided something for weeks or months? And then when you finally did it, you thought, didn't I just do that sooner? Action kills fear. Action kills doubt. Action kills procrastination. Because once you're moving, you're no longer trapped in your head. You're in motion, and motion creates progress if it's messy at first. You've got to be willing to fail forward. And most people don't take massive action because they're terrified of failure. But the truth is, failure is feedback. It's information. It's life showing you what doesn't work so you can adjust and find what does. Every person who has achieved anything great has failed more times than the average person even tried. And the difference is, they didn't see failure as the end. They saw it as a necessary step. If you're willing to take massive action, you will fail. But you'll also learn, grow, adapt, and get stronger. And eventually you'll succeed. Not because you avoided failure, because you refused to stop. Massive action also means urgency. Too many people treat their dreams like they have forever. They say, I'll start tomorrow, next week, next year, when things settle down, when I feel ready. But time doesn't wait. The more you delay, the further your dream slips away. If something matters to you, you've got to act like it matters. You've got to give it urgency as if your life depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. Not just your career, not just your finances, but your joy, your fulfillment, your aliveness. When you put things off, you're not just delaying results, you're delaying the experience of living the life you were meant to live. And here's the beauty. When you take massive, Aligned action, you create momentum that makes everything else easier. Have you ever noticed how hard it feels to push a car that's not moving? But once it starts rolling even just a little, it takes less effort to keep it going. That's momentum. The hardest step is the first one, but once you've taken it, each action after that feels a little easier, a little lighter, a little more natural. And soon, what once felt impossible becomes your new normal. Aligned action also forces you to grow. You commit fully. When you push yourself to act even when it's uncomfortable, you stretch beyond who you were yesterday. You develop skills, resilience, confidence, qualities you would never discover if you stayed still. You can read about swimming all day. You can study every technique, but until you jump in the water, you don't learn to swim. Life is the same. You can think, you can plan, you can prepare, but until you take action, you don't grow. And let me tell you, you take action, you inspire others. People don't follow words, they follow movement. They follow energy. When they see you pursuing your vision, breaking through fear, refusing to quit, you become a living example of what's possible. You stop just talking about your dreams and you start showing what it looks like to chase them. And in doing so, you don't just change your life, you ignite the possibility in theirs. So the question is, what's the action you've been avoiding? It's the thing you know you need to do, but you've been putting off, waiting for the right time, because that thing is the very thing that could change everything for you. And the longer you wait, the heavier it becomes. Stop waiting. Stop holding back. Stop convincing yourself that you'll start later. Later is the dream killer. Now is the only time you have. Take the leap, even if you don't feel ready. Pick up the phone, even if you're scared. Make the decision, even if you don't have all the answers. Start before you're ready, because readiness comes from action, not from waiting. Your dream doesn't need more hesitation. It doesn't need more excuses. It needs movement. It needs energy. It needs your willingness to show up fully and commit with everything you've got. Because when you take massive aligned action, life begins to respond. Doors open that you couldn't see before. People show up who want to help. Opportunities appear where there were none, not because they weren't there before, but because you weren't moving. Action puts you in the flow of life, and once you're in that flow, things begin to align in ways that seem almost magical. So if you truly want transformation, stop waiting, stop overthinking, stop doubting. Get up, get moving, get messy if you have to, because clarity comes from action, confidence comes from action, success comes from action. Everything you've ever wanted is waiting on the other side of action. The life you want will never be built on hesitation. It will only be built on bold, decisive, massive action. One of the greatest illusions people carry with them is the idea that failure is the end of the road. Somewhere along the way, most of us were taught to treat failure as something shameful, something to avoid at all costs, something that defines us. You failed a test in school, you were told you weren't smart. You failed at a business, people whispered you weren't capable. You failed in a relationship, and suddenly you started believing you weren't lovable. And each time, you didn't just experience a failure, you built an identity around it. You started thinking, I am a failure. But here's the truth, failure isn't who you are, failure is simply feedback. It's life giving you information, showing you what doesn't work so you can discover what does. If you look at anyone who has achieved greatness, I don't care if it's in business, sports, art, or personal life, every single one of them has a trail of failures behind them. Not small ones, massive ones. They've been rejected, embarrassed, broke, laughed at, underestimated. But what separates them from everyone else is simple. They didn't stop there. They didn't treat failure as the end. They treated it as part of the process. They understood that every setback carries a lesson, and every lesson is a stepping stone that brings you closer to where you want to be. The problem is most people never allow themselves to see failure that way. The moment something doesn't go their way, they retreat. They say, see, I knew I wasn't good enough. I knew it wasn't going to work out. They use failure as evidence for limitation instead of evidence for growth. Failure doesn't mean you're not capable. It means you're in the arena. It means you're daring to try. It means you're stretching beyond what's comfortable. And if you're not failing, it's probably because you're not trying anything meaningful. Think about a child learning to walk. They fall hundreds of times before they ever take their first steps. But no one looks at a child who falls and says, well, walking's just not for you. You're not meant to do it. No, we encourage them. We cheer them on. We tell them to get back up because we know falling isn't failure. It's part of learning. At what point did you forget that? At what point did you decide that falling down means you should stop instead of keep going? The truth is every failure holds a gift. It gives you strength you didn't know you had. It teaches you resilience you didn't think you could develop. It sharpens your strategy. It humbles your ego. It fuels your hunger. Failure strips away what doesn't work so you can discover what does. But you only receive the gift if you stay in the game long enough to learn from it. Here's something most people never realize. Failure only feels permanent if you stop trying. The moment you get back up, the moment you take the next step, you've already transformed that failure into progress. Progress isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. Every time you rise again, you're proving to yourself that you're stronger than your circumstances, stronger than your doubts, stronger than the voices that said you couldn't. Some of the greatest comebacks in history were born out of the darkest failures. Businesses that were bankrupt became global giants. Athletes who were cut from their teams became legends. People who hit rock bottom built lives of meaning and impact that inspired millions. The failures weren't the end. They were the turning point. The very thing that looked like the breaking point became the breakthrough. You'll never experience that if you spend your life trying to avoid failure, because avoiding failure also means avoiding growth. If you're only willing to take actions where you're guaranteed to win, you'll spend your life playing small. You'll never test your limits, never discover what you're truly capable of, never experience the fulfillment of conquering something that once seemed impossible. Safety might feel comfortable in the short term, but in the long term, it's the biggest failure of all because it robs you of the life you were meant to live. Failure demands that you shift your perspective. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of saying, this proves I can't, say, this shows me where I need to grow. Because the truth is, life isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. Even the painful moments, even the losses, the failures are serving you if you're willing to extract the lesson. And let me tell you, the people who achieve their dreams are not the ones who never failed. They're the ones who built a different relationship with failure. They stopped fearing it. They started embracing it. They didn't run from it. They leaned into it. They used failure as fuel. Every time they got knocked down, they came back hungrier, smarter, stronger. And that's why they eventually succeeded. So I want you to look at the failures in your life, not with shame, not with regret, but with gratitude. Because every single one of them brought you here. Every single one of them shaped who you are today. Every single one of them is preparing you for what's ahead. If you can embrace that, if you can see failure not as the end, but as a stepping stone, you'll become unstoppable. Because then nothing can break you. Nothing can make you quit. You'll realize that as long as you keep moving forward, failure can only serve you. And when you live with that mindset, you stop being afraid of taking risks. You stop holding back. You stop playing small. Because you know that even if you fall, you'll rise. Even if you stumble, you'll grow. Even if you fail, you'll transform. And with that level of certainty, there's nothing you can't achieve. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the pathway to one of the most powerful forces. Shaping your destiny is not your talent, not your resources, not even your past. It's the people you choose to surround yourself with. Whether you realize it or not, your environment is constantly programming you. Every conversation, every influence, every piece of energy that comes from the people around you is either pulling you forward into your vision or dragging you back into your limitations. Human beings are wired for connection. We adapt to the groups we spend the most time with because we consciously choose to, but because our brains are designed to fit in, to belong, to sync with the tribe. And if the tribe around you is average, if they settle for mediocrity, if they constantly complain and make excuses, sooner or later, you'll find yourself lowering your standards just to match them. Not because you want to, but because energy is contagious. Their patterns become your patterns. Their doubts become your doubts. Their limitations become your cage. The reverse is just as true. When you surround yourself with people who are hungry, who are driven, who are committed to growth and excellence, it awakens something inside of you. Their energy becomes fuel for your fire. Their vision stretches your vision. Their discipline sharpens your own. Being in proximity to people who are striving at a higher level forces you to rise to meet them. You can't sit still when everyone around you is moving. You can't stay small when everyone around you is playing big. That's why one of the most important decisions you will ever make is who you allow into your inner circle. Ask yourself right now, who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? Because whether you like it or not, you are becoming a reflection of them. Their conversations, their beliefs, their habits are shaping you every single day. If the people around you talk more about problems than solutions, if they gossip instead of grow, if they're comfortable with playing small, then don't be surprised when you find yourself feeling stuck, uninspired, or drained. You cannot live an extraordinary life surrounded by ordinary thinking. Sometimes the hardest but most necessary step is creating distance from people who no longer align with the life you're committed to building. It doesn't mean you stop loving them. It doesn't mean you think you're better than them. Simply means you refuse to let their limitations define your future. Because you have to choose, do you want to fit in with mediocrity or do you want to stand out in greatness? You can't do both. Now, I know some of you might say, what if I don't have those kinds of people around me right now? What if everyone I know is stuck in old patterns? Then you go and find them. You seek them out. You create that environment. This is the age where you can have mentors, teachers, peers without ever meeting them in person. You can listen to their voices through books, through podcasts, through videos, through courses. You can step into communities of growth online or in person. And as you do, something remarkable happens. You begin to rewire your brain for possibility. You start to normalize success. You start to condition yourself with the belief systems of people who are already where you want to go. That's why it's not just about surrounding yourself with people who believe in you. It's about surrounding yourself with people who challenge you. People who won't let you settle for your excuses. People who will hold you accountable to your highest standard. Because encouragement is good, but accountability is transformational. When you have someone who looks you in the eye and says, I know you can do more. I know you can rise higher. I'm not going to let you play small. That's when you grow. Every person you allow into your circle is either an anchor or a sail. Anchors will keep you stuck, tied to the same place, no matter how much effort you put in. Sails, on the other hand, catch the wind with you and carry you further than you could ever go alone. The question is, which ones dominate your life right now? And more importantly, which ones are you going to choose moving forward? Because the truth is, if you're serious about dreaming big and transforming your life, you can't afford to stay in an environment that doesn't support that. You can't expect to think like a champion if you spend your days surrounded by victims. You can't expect to believe in your future if all you hear is negativity and doubt. You can't expect to achieve extraordinary results if everyone around you thinks ordinary is enough. Growth requires a new environment. Transformation requires a new tribe. Here's the secret. It's not about finding perfect people. It's about finding people who are committed. Committed to growth, committed to vision, committed to becoming the best version of themselves. Because when you connect with people like that, their commitment fuels yours, their hunger ignites yours, their resilience strengthens yours. You don't have to do this alone, and in fact, you shouldn't. Success is never a solo journey. It's a team sport. So if you want to change your life, take a hard look at your circle. Who's lifting you? Who's draining you? Who's pushing you to expand? And who's keeping you small? Then make the choice to align yourself with those who will help you grow. Because the truth is, one right relationship, right conversation, one right community can change the entire trajectory of your life. Surround yourself with growth-oriented people and you won't just dream bigger, you'll live bigger.